I did write that one somewhere in between when that picture was taken and today. Yeah, there you go. So it was really lovely to come in here today and see the changes. It felt cheerful. And now that you're freed of your previous seating, you no longer have to be pusillanimous in any way. Thank you. We are so grateful to be joining Unity in the Olympics once again, and gratitude is exactly what I want to talk with you about today. To begin, I'd like to compare and contrast the non-gratitude mindset. You may have some examples in your history of this. I wouldn't assume that, but I'll give you one or two from mine. We want to compare and contrast the non-grateful mindset with the grateful heart. From my experience, let's call this the resentment end of the gratitude-resentment continuum. A few years ago, Sal and I went to Unity of Whidbey, traveling from our home in Snohomish County for a community Thanksgiving. And of course, we needed to use the ferry system, for which I'm grateful. It'd be really hard to get across the water without those. And this involved waiting in a long line. As we got closer to the ticket booth, I suddenly noticed that the scene in my rearview mirror had changed. Where there had been a nice young couple with their dog in a compact sedan, there was now a large truck hulking up behind us. It was clear they had jumped the line, entering from a side street we had just passed. This is a no-no. And pretty much instantly I was Captain Justice. Thank you. My heart quickened, my blood was up. I was kind of ticked off, and I had a plan. As soon as we got to the booth, I was going to raise the alert. This took some effort, because when we got to the window, the ticket taker had a silly idea that I should wait while she did some trivial thing or another, which I didn't see the sense in. I kind of moonlight as a freelance supervisor, by the way. And I had to interrupt. "This is urgent," I said. This is my story, babe. At my celebration of life, far down the road, I hope, the number of participants who will rise and share that I was consistently calm and peaceful will be a small and select group. I may have to bribe some folks in advance for good press at this event. Back at the ticket booth, the employee heard me out, and she took action. And all of us who'd been waiting our turn soon saw the ferry line cutter leave the queue, turn around, and drive back up the hill. I actually leaned out of my window. Na, 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 hey, 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 goodbye. We journeyed across the water, and when we got to Unity, I guess I felt the need to unburden myself to another attendee, and I related the above story. Was I imagining that he would say, "Yeah, that served that so-and-so right"? Maybe. What actually happened was my fellow Unity member said this: "Oh, yeah, I used to get worked up over stuff like that too. But since I started coming to this church, I let that kind of thing go." Oh. Oops. Busted. I stand before you today humbled, noting with some shame and with gallows humor that I've been coming to Unity and speaking at Unity churches for quite some time, and my own transformation is notably incomplete. I could simply wear a sign saying "work in progress" or "pardon my spite, currently remodeling," because I seem to have an unconscious attitude along the lines of watch your back and defend your territory. But at least I'm starting to see when I need guidance and correction in my approach to life. This is evident at home, by the way, where it's clear that I am a big hit. That's husband in training. I've become increasingly aware that my default mood is not always super user-friendly. Now, I came by it honestly, I believe. I am a primate and kind of wired to pay attention to threats in the environment. Could be a saber-toothed tiger. And some of us may have grown up with a fighting spirit reinforced by our family. Perhaps we had parents who were anxious, depressed, even abusive. It could be they modeled attitudes for us, complaining, gossiping, holding resentments, and even giving voice to bigotry and hatred. We weren't all raised this way, I'm sure, and I've had several good friends who grew up in unity all their lives. Can you imagine? But I bet at least some of us came from a home where anxiousness and problematic behaviors were modeled. Our parents, or my parents anyway, also demonstrated some hypocrisy. One example I'm sure you may remember is when there's a major family dispute going on and one of us kids is in trouble and getting chewed out colorfully, and with words that perhaps I wouldn't say on this platform, phrases, I'd have to church up a little bit. And then the phone would ring, and back then it's this appliance, the black rotary dial phone that everyone shared. And my mother or father would go from, and here's one more thing. Hello? Well, we all know how to code switch, don't we? A Course in Miracles has a lesson about giving up attack thoughts when we see the world around us as a vengeful place and everything as a symbol of that vengeance. When angry at a fellow driver or the ferry line cutter or our significant other, as perhaps we all have been at one point or another, we might recognize that maybe we came into that moment ready for conflict when we really had other choices. Truly we did. Choices like gratitude. I heard an interview with the writer A.J. Jacobs, for a long time the editor of Esquire, who spoke about being thankful. He is someone who, like myself, saw that by default his mood would tend toward the negative pole, and he decided to try to influence that by the practice of gratitude. He began to spend time before meals saying his thank yous out loud to farmers, the truck drivers, the store owners, everyone who brings food to his Manhattan neighborhood. And one day, his preteen son said, likely with an exaggerated eye roll, "Dad, none of these people can hear you. If you were really grateful, you'd go thank them all in person." And Jacobs decided to do just that. Now, to make this more feasible, he narrowed his range from everything he and his family eat down to one essential, life-giving item he consumes at every breakfast. Can you imagine? His morning cup of coffee. A.J. Jacobs went on a journey of gratitude, thanking his local barista. I guess he stops for a later cup of coffee too. The truck driver who delivers the coffee beans. The crew who paved the road. The factory that made the asphalt. He went to Colombia to thank coffee farmers. And when they pointed out they couldn't do their farming without steel machinery, he went to Indiana to thank workers at a steel mill. He called a warehouse that stores coffee beans and thanked the woman in charge of pest control for not letting his coffee be eaten by vermin. He reports that she said, "This is a really strange call, and you made my day." Since coffee, he notes, is 98.8% water, which, by the way, I always tell this to Sal when she says you should drink more water. I've got some right here, 98.8%. He thanked the public utility that brings drinking water into New York City. He said that as he practiced gratitude day by day, he was noticing his mood begin to shift. He started treating other people with more loving kindness. He began to slow down and to savor his food and his time with other people. His world became a friendlier place. And even in a place like Manhattan, I'll bet he'd agree he began to give up attack thoughts. He described one part of this transformation he went through as fake it till you feel it. We can tell people we're grateful, even if our hearts are not overflowing with joy in that moment. Even if we've had a bad dream or feel annoyed with our kid or the news has brought us down, no matter what, we can express gratitude and appreciation, and our own mood, our consciousness, will begin to change. Now, at first glance, this may seem to turn unity principles a bit on their head, for we create our life experiences through our way of thinking, the third unity principle. And I create my talk through turning to the correct page. There it is. But we must live these principles. Knowledge is not enough, as expressed in Principle 5. It's best if our thoughts expand to include our actions. Or as they say in the rooms where people are in recovery from addiction, you can't think yourself into a new way of living. You have to live yourself into a new way of thinking. Isn't that interesting?
Doug, could you say that again?
You can't think yourself into a new way of living. You have to live yourself into a new way of thinking. Isn't that an interesting way to talk about things? It works both ways. A.J. Jacobs says his life is now a kind of gratitude trail, and he encourages people to find gratitude trails of their own. And so I have. I want to tell you about my own foray out of the wilderness of grumpitude into the garden of gratitude, and invite you along if the trail speaks to you as well. After listening to Jacobs talk about coffee gratefulness, I chose to embark on a morning gratitude practice. What I decided to do was that each day I would write a card with some words of appreciation to one person who touched me. And over the course of a couple of months, I wrote to former teachers, to elders in my life, to fellow musicians, to a farmer I buy food from at a local farmer's market, to men I'd been in a men's group with and beloved members of the Unity community. I was savoring the thought that they might get a smile, a warm heart, a happy feeling from reading my card. That, or they might say, "Why is Benecke bothering me again?" Or even, "Who is this?" I hope not. We all like to be remembered and acknowledged. But you see, their response, if I were ever to know it, would be a bonus. The main thing was to acknowledge early each day my debt of gratitude, and to enter the day with a warmer and more loving spirit. I began to think about how we get to a grateful state of mind regardless of circumstance, reflecting on conditional gratitude versus unconditional gratitude. Because it's fairly easy to connect with conditional gratitude. That's gratefulness 101. I'm thankful for my good job, my recent raise, my terrific health, my loving partner. I'm grateful I can take a walk in the woods with a big furry dog whom I love. I'm thankful there's food in my belly, a roof over my head, that the car doesn't break down. I have gratitude for all my good fortune. But what if my life became a country record? I lose my job, my health suffers, my partner 2 times me, the dog dies, the food goes bad, the roof springs a leak, and my truck throws a rod. Right? By the way, my absolute favorite country song title of all time, If You Leave Me, Can I Come Too? But how do I get to gratitude if all the good stuff is taken away from me? How indeed. What if I could root my gratefulness not just in all my desires being met, owning nice stuff, and having my preferences dictate, but make gratitude the bedrock of my life no matter what happens? To be grateful because I choose gratitude. That's unconditional gratitude. I got some insight into this when I was invited into a gratefulness practice any of us might try, gratitude texting. For a year or so, each morning when I turned on my phone, and I could not turn it on early enough to avoid this, they were always there. There was a well-written, often poetic, consistently wise reflection on gratitude sent from a man named David, a retired attorney who evidently gets up ridiculously early. This got to be really annoying some days. He was so relentlessly and radically grateful, and I hadn't had my coffee yet. But slowly I found my own neural pathways opening up into this trail into gratitude, and the capacity to embrace gratefulness in area upon area of my life. I was noticing opportunities to be grateful. I was being taught it's based not on what I have, but how I think about what I have. Mr. Rogers said, the real issue in life is not how many blessings we have, but what we do with our blessings. Some people have many blessings and hoard them. Some have few and give everything away. One morning, David's text was the following, which is the epitome of a gratitude statement that puts the responsibility directly on oneself. He wrote, I am responsible for being grateful in my world. No one else has applied for that position. Until a better applicant arrives, I have the job. I am grateful for the job security. I seem to be on a tenure track with little possible competition. Or to bring Mr. Rogers back once more, he wrote, I believe that appreciation is a holy thing. That when we look for what's best in a person we happen to be with at the moment, when we look for what's best in them, we're doing what God does all the time. We're participating in God consciousness. So in loving and appreciating our neighbor, we're participating in something sacred. In our life's journeys, we are called, if we have ears to hear, to spread love, appreciation, and gratitude. To do at least some of the time what God does all the time. I invite each person listening today, here in the sanctuary or online, to consider taking on a gratitude practice, whether it's writing a card, keeping a journal, sending texts, whether it's connecting to gratitude through social media, calling loved ones, or simply remembering another soul, someone who loved you into loving. Take a moment to find out that someone you've thought of as an enemy could be a friend, holding positive thoughts for them in your private prayer. The relationship you heal is with you. It's with yourself and with the God in your heart, and that gives you the opportunity to be in right relationship with the entire world. A fine writer, Anne Voskamp, says it this way: no amount of regret changes the past. No amount of anxiety changes the future. Any amount of gratitude changes the present. Let us find that gratitude trail, not just with those who have loved and been kind to us, but perhaps even with our enemies. Let's take a risk, see if we can love someone into loving. Let us remember with Albert Schweitzer, whom I mention every time I speak because his 150th birthday year is 2025. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. Today, when this formal service concludes, why not take the opportunity to speak to another church member? Someone you've always appreciated but haven't said so just lately, or maybe even someone you haven't seen eye to eye with at all times in the past, and take a moment to tell them something you're grateful for. I think you'll find that gratitude to be a gift to them and to you. Thank you. Thanks, folks.